Good evening, folks. Welcome to another session from the Wise Asylum on the beautiful day. Well, I bagged 33 degrees today for about half an hour, about 10 to 2. So that's up there in the old north of England, 33 degrees. So that's a good one. We like that, but it has been. I don't know them foreign chaps get on with it when it's like 14, what have you. Which is a bit too much there, I think. But anyway, we're having some great weather. Thunderstorms that terrified the kids. We didn't really turn up. We had a bit of a rumble, a bit of rain, but some places got some good rain, but we could have done with a bit more, but we didn't get it. But never mind. It scared the kids to death and stopped them from doing what they wanted to do this weekend, which is the intention, is it not? Anyway, so what have you been up to? What's going on? Loads going on. Boris, what's up, Boris? The blonde bombshell. He's jacked. Because he's fed up. He's fed up because he's been under a witch hunt, he says. Interesting. Says the man who said, stay in your kennel and don't come out. I want you 8 o'clock dancing. Yep. That's the man. That's the man that said, you must do it. What they're all telling you to do it. You must. And stay in the kennel. So, now he's flaying our done by. Boris thinks he's been under a witch hunt. And he's done nothing wrong. Of course, everything's focused to, oh, well, he had a party. How disgusting. Like, that's the main issue. Oh, of course it is, yeah. We had a party. Nothing to do with all what I've just said. Nothing to do with that at all. The guy's a genius. But, of course, he had a party. And that is the mainstay of the media, the politicos, and then everybody else that copies, which is the majority. The people screaming and shouting. No mention whatsoever of the whole gig that got him in this predicament in the first place. Are we intelligent? It's an intelligent world we live in. I think not. But Boris, what is really going on there? Is it just, oh my God, poor Boris? Well, look, what's gone out the window? Only Brexit. It's only Brexit gone out the window. Even the man voted to give it, do it, crack on. Useless? Useless is not the word because, of course, he let a commercial court tell him he couldn't activate it because he couldn't close Parliament. Now that's a commercial court telling Parliament what to do, and Boris being a happy puppet, naturally, didn't remind him that, hang on a minute, chaps, I've got the will of the people here. I've got the biggest cojones. Not you. Didn't he? He didn't say it, did he? Because he's just a puppet / muppet. Like they all are. Anybody that's up for the cabinet is already sanctioned by the Privy Council. We've discussed all that nonsense before. So Boris has gone. Now what's going to happen? What's the gig? Is it just to force us back into the old Europe because we never really left? Just added to it by putting us under PESCO. Our military 100% controlled now by the EU. But of course it's still controlled by NATO. But the EU can now get our military to subdue French if they decide they don't want to eat frogs anymore. Yeah, there'd be frog hunters being Red Cross, wouldn't they? So they could hypothetically just say, hey, Blighty, in you come, sort these frogs out. They're not eating frogs anymore. Catastrophe. Poland, any other of these nations. Now, EU, oh, look what's happening. Getting the Blighty boys. It's not good, is it? But what have they done now? What have they just announced now? That same bunch of lunatics that did all that naughty stuff to you or encourage you to do it yourself. It's not one to swallow, I know, folks, but that's exactly what happened, which is why there's no spiritual kickback to these freaks. Because what they actually did with whisper. Okay, they had the biggest megaphone going because they had the media, they had everything. Now every little two-bit celebrity coming out there giving it, yeah, you must go, rah, rah, rah. But ultimately, they were just whispering in your logos. You did it. So anyway, let's not get into that because we don't really want to get into that. But of course, the same fruit bats have now announced, and this is across the EU, make note, so the tester, a full digital, I want to go on holiday port thing. And the Irish now, oh, they're happy, the Irish paddies, now we're happy to kill over 1 million livestock because it's part of the EU and thus it's part of the UN, the WEF, Kissinger Associates, because that's who the WEF is. Isn't it? That's what we've discussed, we've looked at it. I hope you've actually looked at it yourself because I know that's the case, because we've known this for a long, long time. There is a guy out there at the moment pushing this really well. I don't agree with everything he says, and that would be Brendan O'Connell. You need to give his YouTube a look because he's piling down on what is actually or going on, but what's gone on. Yeah. So what is going on with this Boris the Defef? Well, I was prompted today on the Twitter because obviously the whole Twitter feed was full of this Boris. Come back, Boris. We hate you, Boris. Boris is puff. Boris, no good. Boris was here. All the normal graffiti was all over the Twitter. And I thought, well, okay, that's got me excited. What can I do about it? So, what I actually did is put this together. Because it does pretty much give you what I'd say is my take on what's going on right now with the old Boris the Defef. So basically, the trial and tribulations, fibs and dastardly deeds of a fully paid up muppet, and that'll be the blonde bombshell. Boris the blonde bombshell proved he is a puppet when prevented by the corporate Supreme Court from activating Brexit, and did absolutely nothing to remind said court that he had the mandate of the people. Had the audacity to demand you stay in the kennel and take the short dance to the NHS and murder your offspring. Indebted the equitable title, which is the SESCV, exactly what the government administered under patent from the monarch. Okay, so I'll give that again. Indebted that equitable title, which is administered by the government in agreement with the last and the present fraudulent monarch. In order the debt does not go back to the owner, the monarch, and it gets thrust on you. Puts bankruptcy on, and it goes to no hide. In the same vein as Edward VII, Boris does demand you send off your white offspring to any war the priesthood deems necessary. Today that would be the Ukraine, but also keep your eyes on the two bases going in Syria, the Middle East. America's not really running off anywhere, it would appear. It's staying. Uncle Sam is staying. They need you to bay for Boris. Come back, you blonde bombshell. Brexit is the carrot. Because it is, isn't it? That was his thing. He's got to be a good guy if you're a Brexiteer. You've got to love him because you'll ignore everything else. We hate it. Brexit is the carrot. In order you do not see what the gods of war are up to, and thus the real game playing out before you. The political class will not bring what is correct back to the table. Their job is to implement or build the altar. For the ultimate insult to all that is good. He cometh, says I. He cometh. So, that's got to be what we have to have a look at. What is this he cometh? Because, ladies and gentlemen, missed or reminded, as I was this week, of a speech made by old Big Ears back in 2021 as they launched this and we're getting excited about the lockdowns. Yeah, we all know how the coppers acted. Absolute chimpish, weren't they? Long-guard, knuckle-dragging thugs. Yeah, that's what we saw. And that were under Mother. It's not going to be any change there then, is it? It's just going to be sanctioned even more. So all these Masonic / Jesuit, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbia, people that are running all our security systems now as corporations under a PCC, in sync with the mayor. We've got Gotham. We've got Gotham going everywhere, haven't we? So we're going to have a little look at what is this, what should we think about it, and we're not going to make it up. We're not going to invent stuff. We're going to take it from the data available right now. So that means we need to remove the goggles of religion. We need to remove the goggles of race, i.e., we are looking at this tonight as a business plan. A business plan that, if you've got any sense at all, you can see playing out all around you. If you have any idea of history, you can see it having played out through the 20th century and right up to this amazing Wise Asylum session tonight. So we're not going into religion, we're not going into race theories. We're going to say this is a business plan, and there's terms, there's ideas that are being used and that have been known for a long time. We don't need to use them because we can see this is a business plan, and then we can see that the names and any other ideas that we've been focused to see it as is just pie in the sky, and the method by which this system has managed to entwine itself around everything. So I want to make that clear. This is not an exposition in, oh, it's all their fault, oh, it's all their fault, blah, blah, blah. This is basically saying, this is the business plan. Are you in or are you out? Simple as. Forget all the rhetoric on the historic nonsense, prophecy, all that shit. Forget it, because we know they're misusing every term, every word that does cement it in those terms, and thus prevents everybody out there from coming together and going, well, wait a minute. Well, I go to mass, but hang on a minute, it's still going to screw me. Well, I go to church, and it's going to screw me. Well, I'm at synagogue, and it's costing me money. We all have something in common. This system is shit. This system isn't good. It's a slave system. And we've explored for many years now, how that pans out in relation to having you being a slave, when of course the picture that you have in your mind because of history and film is a guy in a leather thing getting whipped, tied up, building pyramids. That's the image they want you to see, so that when slavery is mentioned, that's the image that pops out in your mind. If you're black, of course, it's all about you. You're the only victims in the whole game, and that's all you see it. You know what I'm saying? If you're an Arab, you're quite happy about the use of the word slavery because that's in your makeup. It's in your theology. Yeah? Anything that takes on the Talmud is that theology. Okay? And we do have two systems that do have that within them. Now, I don't know whether people have realised that that's exactly what it is and that's turning them off their actual doctrine, but that is the case. We have explored many times that when you look at the actual theology that's being pushed out and saying, this is what it's about and this is who's doing it, is false. Because the system in and of itself is Talmudic, it's Babylonian. The only tribe that's involved with it or tied to it would be the Judeans that went into the captivity way back in Mr. Time. Never a part of the Israelite tribes, apart from being the biggest and worst enemy of said 10 tribes of Isis-Ra-El. We've explored those people more than likely, in my opinion, would be those that were rejected from Egypt when Akhenaten kicked off his gig. We could also suggest it may be the remnants of those that got kicked out once Egypt kicked Akhenaten out and his system. I would err on the former as being who they were. We've also had a brief look at the fact that who are these Canaanites? Are they not the Hyksos that were kicked out of Egypt before that? Who in their own right were pharaohs and would naturally then have assumed control of the Egyptians that fled Egypt and ended up in the northern part of what we call Canaan or the Levant. We've explored all that. But what we do know is the system that's being thrust upon us, there's many historic prophecies about, isn't a Hebrew tradition. It is therefore not a Semitic tradition at all. It's something foreign, but it's intertwined itself and subverted now today everything it wriggles or slithers itself into. So I don't want to kick this off and say, look, this is what it's about, and I'm secretly underhand naming the thing. Bullshit. Nobody on the earth, unless you're up there with the elite, so when you've already got everything, and thus everything to lose, is going to benefit from this system. In fact, the whole game that is playing out before us, and has been for the last couple of thousand years, is about those that have lived on this earth in a way that we can only imagine, because they have everything, they control everything. Everything that we suffer today, everything that's going on today, it's got nothing to do with saving the earth, it's got nothing to do with saving nature, it's everything to do with saving their lifestyle. Because it's prophesied that they are not going to be able to keep their lifestyle together. It's probably going to be due to something like free energy coming out in a way that they can't stop it. Or maybe it comes out after all this nonsense that we know they're going to create in order to try and force this he that cometh on the platform to be able to offer solutions to everything that this priesthood, through its societies and other operations, have turned asunder, that was our own civilized systems that we created, our ancestors created. They took it over, have been demolishing it so they can come back in and say, oh look, we know the answers. They've pushed it on you that it's all your fault because, from the get-go your civilization was evil. Oh no. Evil came on here. Probably because, obviously, something went wrong somewhere down the line that allowed this lot in. But here we are today anyway. So we're not throwing this either anyway. We're saying this is a system. And the way we're going to look at it tonight is it's a business plan. So I really want to stress that. I don't want anybody triggering. Because that's the intent. And that's exactly what I mean when we enter this arena. With that, let's have a look who's managed to join us on this day. Again, I wouldn't really expect folk to join live, but it's hot. PY says, evening all, good evening Paul. Anita says, hi, good evening Anita. Untitled says, respected participants, I extend my warm greetings to all and pay homage to the remarkable individual known as Sean. Well, thank you very kindly, sir. As we gather here tonight, I eagerly anticipate live performance and the valuable insights you're about to impart. Well, I hope so. It's come to my attention that numerous attendees were unable to join us last Sunday, and I'm certain they eagerly await your presence once again. I wasn't here last Sunday. I were dossing. So without further ado, let us commence this wonderful journey together, says the Untitled. Okay, thank you very much, sir. LFX gives it the old thumbs up. Good man, how are you doing, matey? Maniac. Evening everyone, managed to make a live again after being unable to for several weeks. Excellent, well done you. LFX says the FEW or WEF, and we got an emoji. We are Sherlock Holmes. 1 gig monocle. Paul says, good evening Sean and everyone, good evening to you. Untitled, boom. So you've got the old thunder down there, have you? Well, we've had a terrible shitty bit, it weren't very much. And a little bit of rain, but we could do a lot more. Cos says, sup champs, and we've got the gigs on. Hello Cos. And hello Paul. LFX, the few, not many, the few. Because even they don't know how the F they're still getting away with it. Listen, you might change your mind on that after tonight, because it's pretty obvious what's happening. It's pretty obvious why it's happening. And it's pretty damn obvious that it's not so much a they, it's a he. They are just the muppets and puppets sucking the shit out of the he's arsehole. Now, you know there's something wrong from the get-go when, in order to raise this character to the top, they have to create everything that didn't need fixing before in a position that it needs fixing. So they've demolished everything. They are responsible for it, or let's just say they are the whisperers who have encouraged us to look over here while they do this over here. Still on us, we are responsible. As much as the fruit bats are fruit bats, we let it go on. Anyway, misunderestimated. Hello, misunderestimated, and the clappy emoji. Good evening to you. Hello, Marzipan, says the Untitled, addressing misunderestimated. Oh, Tasser Kens, evening all. Good evening to you. Is it Tasser Kens? My apologies. Misunderestimated high chocolate. Oh, something going on there, I think. Good evening all, says Tasrakens. Misunderestimated, Untitled, high chocolate. I've said that. June Gower, good evening all, and the thumbs up. Good evening, June. And Gary Garcia says it's holiday for the King's birthday today. What, over there in Oz? Well, there's nobody giving a blind a notice for it here. If that's what you're saying, Gaz. Though you wanted to sideline this. Well, of course, now you sidelined England, but you've jumped on this acclaimed, let's say, monarch. Ooh. And of course, Gary's got the emoji. Excellent. Right, and are laughing at me. Says misunderestimated. Right, without further ado, let's have a goof honk. So what am I doing first? I can't remember. Oh shit. Wait a minute. Oh yeah. Now I know. Just to tag on to what we were looking at last week, actually, because absolutely. It shouldn't do that. Right, so now I have to go in here because it's gay. See, now I don't know why it's doing this, but it's not actually me that's doing this. I have to be honest. Right. Where are we? There we go. Done. There we go. Right, folks. So this is on the 1st of the 6th, and it's important because it's a follow-on for what I've discussed about the House of Lords, and how so many of them in there. The good ones have been kicked out, but the ones that are left that were tied to those have been kicked out even, or one way or another, a lot of them were tied to Epstein during the book, the Black Book. It says, this is a London Economic, and it says, where the hell is UK media? Fatal motion tabled as outrage over public order bill grows. So this is the public order bill the government want, where they can just search you without reason. This is by Jack Pete, and it says, this is probably the angriest film I've ever made, and I make no excuse for my rage. Filmmaker Peter Stefanovic. So he's made a film and he's angry, he's cross. Green Party Baroness Jenny Jones has tabled a fatal motion. Well, that's interesting because in Ireland, it's the Green that have given the Tory Massive control of the council. After a Crown agent named Miles Parkinson did take over the Labour Party many moons ago, only to kick its ass at the end and then go and join the Tories. In the same manner, I would suggest Keir Starmer. He's a Crown agent, he's only feigning to be Labour, just like Tony Blair were, and he's going to flip it. Let's say he got in, he'd flip it, and it'd be exactly the same story as being carried out by the current cabinet. Has tabled a fatal motion to stop the government from using a ministerial decree to overturn a vote in the House of Lords. So now you can see there's a battle going on. They now think they've got enough in the Lords, enough power in there to actually basically just ride roughshod over our political system, an ancient political system. The government lost a vote in the Lords on public order bill to change the interpretation of serious disruption. of other people's day-to-day activities to mean anything more than minor on the 7th of February this year. But they are now trying to reinstate this change via secondary legislation, which has less parliamentary scrutiny and cannot be amended. Okay, so this is what the little shitbags are doing. Yeah, Rishi Gandhi. This is what he's up to. It's the first time ever that the government has tried to use secondary legislation to directly overturn the will of Parliament. Baroness Jones has tabled a fatal motion to kill off the passage of the government's legislation, which will trigger a vote in the Lords on the 13th of June. Right, so what are we now? Tuesday. But so far there's been very little media coverage of it. Yeah, well, we know which pocket they're in. Privy Council. This is a make-or-break moment for parliamentary democracy, Baroness Jones said. The Lords defeated the government on this issue and the ministry is now acting like a 7th century monarch by using a decree to reverse that vote. What is the point of Parliament if a minister can just ignore the outcome? 7th century? Sorry, 17th century. I was going to say she doesn't know her history. My apologies, 17th century. That's your 1600s. Oh, a dig at Charlie. By using a decree to reverse that vote. Oh, we've got a Charlie, you know. What is the point of a parliament if a minister can just ignore the outcome of debates and votes by imposing draconian laws on the public? Well, when you've got a public that's apathetic, even though leaping lords don't really have an audience. Political campaigner Peter Stefanovic has also shared his outrage, questioning where the media coverage is of the matter. So there you go. That's what they're up to. That's what the games they've played since '97 with Blair and Brown. You know, at the point where they think they can just like roughshod right over the Lords completely. This corporate cabinet, which is Privy Council, which is WEF, which is European Union, which is UN, which is Committee 300, Round Table, Council on Foreign Relations, International IIRA, what is it? I forgot its name. Cecil Rhodes Round Table, that gig. You know, McAlpine, Milner Group, all these funny aristocracy people, these twisted lords who took over the Blighty during Victoria's, but especially so under Edward VII's time in office. So that's just something I wanted to share with you, just so that you know it does work concurrent with what we've discussed, and just to what degree the House of Lords is now has become worthless, especially if the government can get this through on what they call secondary legislation. So the next thing I want to cover is this. Now I hope I don't break copyright because it's very important. It is a UN speech, but it's so important because it explains a lot in relation to what they're actually doing now. So get your eyes around this, or rather your ears around this. This is 2021, COP26 in Glasgow. The Aggie Squeezers, and I noticed Nicola Sturgeon or Nicola Cranky, the Aggie Squeezer up there, has been arrested. Oh, well, we knew she was a fraud and a fruit bat from the get-go, so now somebody else has realised it and he's been arrested, so that's interesting. But never mind, it'll all be part of the gig, I'm sure. Now let's have a look at now acclaimed monarch. What did he have to say in 21? Remember, this is as the book script was in full swing. Lockdowns galore. More sinister when you see it now at this context. Let's crack on.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us just how devastating a global cross-border threat can be. Climate change and biodiversity loss are no different. In fact, they pose an even greater existential threat, to the extent that we have to put ourselves on what might be called a warlike footing.
Warlike footing. This is the wind and rain stuff. War footing. Yeah? I mean, all them fires in Canada, all set off at the same time. You're telling me that's an accident? Is it heck? This big system that's trying to pull up the offerings of remedy. They're creating it. In order they can come on and go, oh, what's happened? We can sort it out, lads. We can sort it out. A war footing, he says.
Having myself had the opportunity of consulting many of you over these past 18 months, I know you all carry a heavy burden on your shoulders, and you do not need me to tell you that the eyes and hopes of the world are upon you, to act with all dispatch and decisively, because time has quite literally run out. The recent IPCC report gave us a clear diagnosis of the scale of the problem. We know what we must do. With a growing global population creating ever-increasing demand on the planet's finite resources, we have to reduce emissions urgently and take action to tackle the carbon already in the atmosphere, including from coal-fired power stations.
Meanwhile, China builds 134 new ones, I think, or something like that. India the same. We've looked at the Earth map many times. There's no pollution whatsoever in the West. It's all in India and China. I mean, this guy's told lies already. Bare-faced lies.
Putting a value on carbon, thus making carbon capture solutions more economical, is therefore absolutely critical.
Taxation. Now, this is the key to it. It's all about them ring-fencing their existence while you pay for it, and in the meantime, they get rid of you. You get rid of yourselves by one method or another.
Similarly, after billions of years of evolution, nature is our best teacher. In this regard, restoring natural capital, accelerating nature-based solutions, and leveraging the circular bioeconomy will be vital to our efforts.
Bioeconomy. Remember, that includes everything that's just taken place from the juice. You know, a part of that economy.
As we tackle this crisis, our efforts cannot be a series of independent initiatives running in parallel. The scale and scope of the threat we face call for a global systems-level solution based on radically transforming our current fossil fuel-based economy to one that is genuinely renewable and sustainable. So, ladies and gentlemen, my plea today is for countries to come together to create the environment that enables every sector of industry to take the action required. We know this will take trillions, not billions of dollars. We also know that countries, many of whom are burdened by growing levels of debt.
Debt. You see now England. He now holds our estates, which is the right to land that we have here when we're born on it, okay? That's what he's nicked. They've nicked it, right? And they're saying, we hold it in trust because you're all thick. You couldn't possibly settle your own land right, yeah? Bearing in mind, while you're under that system, at common law, you're only a tenant, which means if you have land as a tenant, you have to earn money to give to him. Okay? Notice also, there are no new notes being created with that fat face on it. Is there? He's not taking on the debt, he thinks, of his mummy. Yet, under patent, The government administers the equitable title, SQV, yeah? And they block you from your common law rights to land because he wants to keep it. The debt, all debt, because he owns, by right, that title goes back to him. All of it. But in having us use it as ID, we're holding the debt. That gives the government the right then to inflict all this shit on us. He's the owner. He owns the debt. That's English law. That is UK commercial law. And that's across the world. So he's already told you they want to create a tax system on carbon. They're measuring it. Your use of it. A war footing. But he mentioned industry. There must be a system for industry to come together. So this is private enterprise. This isn't your nation state. This isn't your country, your domestic system. He wants to license the private sector and its corporations to be able to push this.
Simply cannot afford to go green. Here we need a vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector.
Did you hear that? These guys are actually declaring war because they're creating a private foreign army and he's demanding that it's used to implement, he uses the term marshal, which means to make sure it's implemented. Now you can tie this back to Second World War, Nazi Germany, all the systems that are already existing, all of a sudden, inside them are put these people's players in all the key positions. And within an instant, that system takes over what was. We've got that. All your commanders in the police, military, are Masonic. Or such. You say Masonic, it's the same secret society network. That's happened. That's in. Duke of Kent is the leader of the York Rite Freemasonry. By default, the monarch is Grand Patron, although I can't say that that is the case with this guy. It certainly was with his mother. Marshall, did you get that?
With trillions at his disposal.
How then? Now we get to it. With trillions at his disposal, why has one man got at his disposal everything that we create? Why? Because we follow the numbers. You know, you think, oh, the economy is this bunch of numbers, this trade, that. Your economies are built on what you and I do every day in, day out. The reason these guys are powerful is because everything we do day in and day out, they're taking a cut. Commerce over trade, yeah? How much? £10, you agree. Give me £10, I give you the product. Trade is over. When commerce is involved, I say £10, you pay 60. I still get £10, £50 has gone into commerce. Insurances, taxes, rents, blah, 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 blah. It's parasitic. And it's moved itself into our lives to the point that it's about to dictate how much air you can breathe, how much energy you can use, and whether you can use the highway. Okay, because it's now a road, innit? Trapped on the equitable title that he owns. This man owns it, not you, but you're claiming to own it because you're running on it. And on that basis, he's going to hand our estates into this shit.
Far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond
Going back to that.
And with the greatest respect, with trillions at his disposal.
His disposal.
Far beyond global GDP, and with the greatest respect, beyond even the governments of the world's leaders, it offers the only real prospect of achieving fundamental economic transition.
Now then, what's he bringing forward, him? You see, The pale horse, when you look at the Greek translation, isn't pale at all. It's green. Yeah, so the pale horse of the apocalypse isn't the pale horse, it's the green horse. Now, we always cited this character as the rider of that horse. And I have to say, on this speech, which of course is before he stole, by deception and fraud, the seat of power on these isles, this is what he was pushing. So he's been rallying on behalf of this he, who he's just told us has wealth way beyond governments, including the biggest economies on the planet. So, if you want to know where all the money's gone, the wealth, the gold, the trusts that have nicked land or use of it, it's all going into the hands of this one critter that this guy is pulling forward.
So, how do we do it? First, how do we get the private sector all pulling in the same direction? After nearly 2 years now of consultation, CEOs have told me that we need to bring together global industries to map out, in very practical terms, what it will take to make the transition.
That's why they're attacking the Dutch farmers. That's why they're putting trees up everywhere so we can't farm ourselves. It's the reason why they kill everybody that comes out with free energy engines that run on water. So on the one hand, they're claiming that they are the saviours and they're really concerned about the earth. Yet, every single time something comes out that would cancel out all this fossil fuel stuff, as they call it, I disagree, it's not fossil fuel. Everything that could save it and the planet and everything, they've stopped. And this guy now is claiming to be the king of the British Isles, operating for a foreign power. A he.
We know from the pandemic that the private sector can speed up timelines dramatically when everyone agrees on the urgency and the direction.
And the media blag it, lie, cheat, terrify you. And the politicians issue commands and orders that terrify you. Then it's achievable. You're giving all the money, our money, as a debt, as a promissory note, to all these private enterprises that we knew and saw getting millions and millions when that bullshit came about.
So each sector needs a clear strategy to speed up the process of getting innovations to market.
Innovations, of course, innovations in accordance with every single step they make in ushering in this corporate private system at the low end, run by the secret society's control of the satanic Zionist churches.
And who pays and how? We need to align private investment behind these industry strategies to help finance the transition efforts, which means building the confidence of investors so that the financial risk is reduced. Crucially, investment is needed to help transition from coal to clean energy. If we can develop a pipeline of many more sustainable and bankable projects at a sufficient scale, it will attract greater investment.
Bankable. See, free energy isn't bankable. Can you see? You're starting to see now that the foundation of these elites' power is the control of the energy that you use. That's what they're all about. It's what it's based in. So they've had to wreck everything in civilized world in order they can come in as the saviours. Or the he will be the saviour, because Malachi Martin made it clear how to understand the he. And that is, it will be a man who comes up at a time when the world's in serious problems, and he'll offer solutions. Okay? He's going to offer the solutions which he can, because the people, the wealth that he fronts, because he's only a front man himself, whoever this personage is, They make that clear in the protocols. They've created it, so they can then offer the solution. But that solution is because he holds all the money. So when you've got Z bending over, Biden, Trump, all these different people all over the world going with it, it's because they're getting money from this supreme wealth or king of mammon, if you go with the prophecy stuff. But we don't want to touch the prophecy stuff. It's a business plan, people. You've got to look at this as a business plan. Then you can see it without having to edit because you're one group or you're another group, etc. If you're going to keep those edits in your map, this is going to work because nobody is going to be able to come together enough to just say, look, it's a bad business plan. Take it away. We don't want it. We're not interested in it. Okay, you might hold all the funny money. Take it with you. We'll crack on. We'll have our militaries back. We'll have our produce back. We'll control our land. Thank you very much. The equitable title of debt goes back to you, son, because you are the debtor. That's what you can put in the Noahide. The debt. You can guarantee the Sanhedrin will give it a jubilee in 5 minutes when it's formed to run this new world order.
Third, which switches do we flick to enable these objectives? More than 300 of the world's leading CEOs and institutional investors have told me that alongside the promises countries have made, their nationally determined contributions, they need clear market signals, agreed globally, so that they have the confidence to invest without the goalposts suddenly moving.
Remember, governments only have your money. So this is the privateers, the pirates, using your government to take your wealth into the hands of this. Privateers, industry. I mean, you've got to see through this speech. You've got to see right exactly what he's talking about. And when they talk about time is running out, it's not about you, it's not about the planet, it's about their power collapsing. And the only way it'll collapse is because they know what it's going to do. It's got to be because at some point down the line, free energy becomes available. Then you don't need them. And then the fun really starts because they spit the dummy out, don't they? You know what they're like.
This is the framework I've offered in the Terracotta Roadmap created by my Sustainable Markets Initiative with nearly 100 specific actions for acceleration. Together, we are working to drive trillions of dollars in support of transition across 10 of the most emitting and polluting industries.
Well, hang on a minute, pal. Your mate here has got more money than sense, way above all world economies. Why do you need ours? Is he a greedy bastard? Or is it just to make sure, once you raise this guy up, there isn't any money left to undermine it? I'd say that's exactly what this is about. So on the one hand, he bigs up his best mate, who's powerful and brilliant just because he has the wealth of the world. But still now he wants yours, because it's not enough. So, contradiction in terms.
They include energy, agriculture, transportation, health systems, and fashion. The reality of today's global supply chains means that industry transition will affect every country and every producer in the world. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the private sector is ready to play its part and to work with governments to find a way forward. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, many of your countries I know are already feeling the devastating impact of climate change through ever-increasing droughts, mudslides, floods, hurricanes, cyclones and wildfires.
That's called geoengineering, Charles. Have you not seen him in the sky? Do you need glasses? It's being created. Geoengineering, HARP, ESAT. People, you need to get into what these systems are, what they do, and what they've been doing for a very long time. If you want to understand how they could possibly support the false claim of climate change due to emissions.
Just seen on that terrifying film. Any leader who has had to confront such life-threatening challenges knows that the cost of inaction is far greater than the cost of prevention. So I can only urge you, as the world's decision makers, to find practical ways of overcoming differences so we can all get down to work together to rescue this precious planet and save the threatened future of our young people. Thank you.
Young people. When he said ours, he's not talking about you out there that they've programmed stupid. He's talking about their offspring. It's all about their system. They know it's going to collapse. We don't know why, but something in the future, and they can't stop it, is going to happen that's a threat to their power system. Their offspring, not yours. Remember that. Yours, your children. You've signed them all off and created this equitable title, and your boy or girl became a child, subject to the state. State administers that title in agreement with this guy. Did you also notice that he made it clear agreements are needed? This system can only operate on agreements. It can't do it any other way, or it falls foul of spiritual law. This is what people don't understand. It's on us. They're whisperers. We do it. There's no kickback to them. You've followed their lead, you've followed it, you've built it, you're making it happen. You've really got to understand that. This is where religion comes in, because it makes it out that you can't stop it. This is bullshit. If you're sucked into religion and you're editing your life out there by religion, then you're right. You can't do anything about it because you've told yourself you can't, because you're believing this particular take on something. And there's no religion that doesn't get caught up in that. If you're a political party, again, you're editing. You're not looking at the bigger picture, you're only editing everything to fit your little chosen way to exist and what you'll support and what you won't support. It comes back to us. This system can only work if everybody continues in their own map, as opposed to coming to terms with the fact the territory is not in sync with any of your maps. All are deceived at this time, and our governments are going to hand this over to his self-declared system that he's setting up. Of course he's not. And raising up a he, whomever that may be. And there we go. He's done. I'm not so sure I like that. I'm not so sure I'm comfortable with that. I don't know what you lot say. Now, a business plan. It is. Right? Now, the way they obfuscated that it's a business plan is by having it enshrined in religious belief. Now, it says here, I just want to give you an insight into, now we've mastered and begun to understand that unless you dissect the words used in anything that you're reading or hearing, you're not getting the real message. Yeah? So I'll pick this out just because I want to show you this. This were August the 6th, 2021, David Andrew Weinberg, and it's Arab News. Home, proven false 100 years ago, anti-Semitic protocols document is still being exploited. And as a caveat, it says extremists of great interest in the protocols of the Elders of Zion forgery. Forgery, that's the key word, folks. As it validates their prejudices. Because of the Arab-Israeli conflict, the protocols have been particularly appealing to some in the Middle East. Washington DC this summer marks the 100th anniversary of a journalistic triumph against hate. In 1921, the Times of London definitely demonstrated that the infamous Protocols of the Elders of Zion was nothing but a crudely plagiarized forgery. See, the key is in those two words, people. Plagiarism is to copy, is it not? And to forge is to copy that work as your own and put it in. So in those two words, and this is how they've obfuscated the reality, who's saying that what we have in our hands isn't the original, it's a forgery. So it's a copy of an original, and again statement in the term plagiarized. Can you see how it gets? They're telling the truth for them that understand the English language and are prepared to put the effort in. But you out there, because you're under their programs, for some unknown reason, only known to your map, believe that plagiarized forgery means they're not real. Yeah? That's how I wanted to start this off, as we have a little look. We're not going to go into great detail. I did do a full thesis of the protocols years ago, and I can't find it anywhere. I really don't know what I've done with it. So I've had to find others just to try and give an insight into. But ultimately, what I wanted to find that I knew was in the stuff I'd done was that they speak in terms of that this he that they're going to put up isn't in any way, shape, or form a power. He is to everybody save for the elders behind him. So it's to all intents and purposes to everybody else save for those elders. This he is a law unto himself, and that nobody is allowed to know what he's going to do. That's the reality of it. That's such a blag. Because he'll say one thing, you'll believe it on the same way that you've misunderstood those two words. And then he'll do something completely different once you've got his support on that lie. He'll give you a lie, you'll give him your support, he'll change his mind. And it's allowed because they've already told you that that's how this guy's going to operate. So that's all I wanted to show you on that. The fact that even though for everybody says it's disproved, there you go. Now, if you don't understand what I'm saying, you have a lot of work to do in understanding words, in understanding English grammar, right? You have a long way to go. Now, there we go. So we've done that one. Right. Now, where am I? Okay. So what I want you to... We're just going to have a look at this guy quickly, because this plays in to how they get away with this. And war is a big part of it. Now, this guy is a prize fruitcake. Anybody that's delved into MK Ultra, anything mind control, you know exactly what kind of a shitbag. And he's an Aggie squeezer. Again. Presbyterian. Donald Ewan Cameron. A reet proper shit. Right? We're not going to go into mad things about this guy. But he began his career training in psychiatry at Glasgow Royal Mental Hospital. On all you Glaswegian Aggie squeezers. Right? And then ended up over in the US, Baltimore, Maryland, John Hopkins, etc., Henderson Research, etc. And he was the successor of Swiss psychiatrist Eugene Bleuler, who had significantly influenced psychiatric thinking. There he met A.T. Mathers, Manitoba's principal psychiatrist, who convinced Cameron in 1925 to move to Brandon, second largest city of Manitoba. Now, this is the important bit. Okay, so he's an expert in twisting the melon. This is what they did in Germany, because this is exactly what they're setting the West up to do again. Right? Our German brothers and sisters gave us the example, but the media history doesn't let you see that. It focuses you to, the Germans were all bad, we won the war, we're fucking amazing and fantastic. Okay, and it worked. The baby boomers suck it up because, of course, they landed on the moon, didn't they? And they had all that time to retire early to study. Oh, they didn't do it. They forgot to study, didn't they? They'd sold out the nation and forgot to study. That's baby boomers for you. But they're nearly gone. Nuremberg trials. 1945, Cameron Knoll, D.C. Lewis and Dr. Paul L. Schroeder, colonel and psychiatrist, University College of Illinois, were invited to the Nuremberg trials for a psychiatric evaluation of Rudolf Hess. So he's invited in there during these Nuremberg trials to evaluate Rudolf Hess. Alright? Their diagnosis was amnesia and hysteria, per a short commentary in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Hess later confessed that he had faked the amnesia. Before his arrival in Nuremberg, Cameron had written The Social Reorganization of Germany, in which he argued that German culture and its individual citizens would have to be transformed and reorganized. In his analysis, German culture was made up of people who had the need for status, worshipped strict order and regimentation, desired authoritarian leadership, and had a deeply ingrained fear of other countries. I think that's the priesthood projecting their mindset on whomever it is to choose. At this particular occasion, it was the Germans. Because their mindset is they fucking fear everybody that's not of the same. The paper stated that German culture and its people would have offspring bound to become a threat to world peace in 30 years. Exactly the same protocol in force as you've just entered the book script, as it's pretty clear now. Not because I've seen it, read it, because I'm witnessing it. All those under 30 were sterilised. Miscarriages galore. To prevent this, the West would have to take measures to reorganise German society. Other similar psychiatric diagnoses of Germany were published during this time. The carve-up. Exactly what they've got planned for Europe, Blighty, America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Yep. Remember, Kalergi, they want it full of numpties, people that are slaves and do what they're told. There's no room for anybody else. Only them at the top. The priesthood. Okay? Those that claim to be Jews, but we've explored that, and that's garbage. Complete and utter garbage. This theology has got nothing to do with the Hebrew tradition, nothing to do with the Semitic speaking races. Nothing. Apart from the fact that they've had it shoved down their neck in the last 1,000 years. Where we got? He came with the idea that if he presented the world and confronted the Germans with the atrocities committed during the war, the world and the Germans would refrain from repeated acts of extreme aggression. If the greater population of Germany saw the atrocities of World War II, they would surely submit to a reorganised system of justice. Cameron decided that Germans would be most likely to commit atrocities due to their historical, biological, racial and cultural past and their particular psychological nature. All Germans on trial would be assessed according to the likeness for the committing of the crime. So this is a nation that realised exactly what we're realising today, that there's a secret society, military order, which took over Germany and then got it to front its own will and then pay the price for it. We know them today as the Prussians. Right? Cameron began to develop a broader theory of society, new concepts of human relations to replace concepts he deemed dangerous and outdated. These became the basis of the new social and behavioural science that he would later institute through his presidencies of the Canadian, American and World Psychiatric Associations. So all this mental health shit I've been telling you about is garbage. It's another method to carve it up. So when you look at people like Tyson Fury is there at the top because what does he push? He tells you all the time that he's a mental retard. And that it's alright for you to be a mental retard too. Yeah. So Psychiatric Associations, the American Psychopathological Association and the Society of Biological Psychiatry. With the results of the Manhattan Project, Cameron feared that without proper reorganisation of society, atomic weapons would fall into the hands of new fearsome aggressors. It's all right in their hands because they're fruit bats, certified, but you're not allowed to have them. Cameron argued that it was necessary for behavioural scientists to act as the social planners of society, and that the United Nations could provide a conduit for implementing his ideas for applying psychiatric elements to global governance and politics. Cameron started to distinguish populations between the weak and the strong, exactly what Charles was talking about when he said nature is our best teacher. It's the survival of the fittest. Yep, Darwinism. Those with anxieties or insecurities and who had trouble with the state of the world were labelled as the weak. In Cameron's analysis, they could not cope with life and had to be isolated from society by the strong. The mentally ill were thus labelled as not only sick, but also weak. Cameron further argued that the weak must not influence children. He promoted a philosophy where chaos could be prevented by removing the weak from society. So there he is claiming to be against the Nazi philosophy. That is the Nazi philosophy. Can you see that now? And how they turn it around. Predator accuses the victim of being the predator. Everybody believes it. Now we're not going to go into that any further. I just want to let you know that's where it's coming from. MK Ultra, Tavistock, all this shit is the big cheese dick. And that what they did in Germany is exactly what they set as a blueprint for what they've done across the world in nations. There is the ugly blighter, a haggis squeezer, no doubt. Presbyterian. There's your Whigs. Oh, your Fruit Bat United, the East India Company, the bankers. And there he is. What a ugly, inside and out, haggis squeezer. Don't forget what he did in Glasgow. Oh, yep, no wonder you're all fucked up there, lads. There's your reason. Or one of them anyway. So that's that. Now then. We need to move. Wait a minute, I need to move off that. Where am I? How's that going down with you guys? Are you getting the gist of what I'm saying? It's a he. It's been announced. He's got all the money in the world. He's not satisfied. You want your money. You want to tie up in carbon tax. For all the problems we find that they've created through geoengineering, use of HARP and ESAT and other weather modification programs. And up comes this he to offer the solutions to what they've created. Now back to what I was saying about Malachi Martin, what he actually said, because I got off track a bit there. He says that this guy will offer the solutions, and his faithful will be so enamoured by his solutions, they will call him God. Or, you must be God. This he is going to accept that accolade. Anybody that says different, then think about it. You fucked. Are you? Because this guy is the one that they're holding up. This is only here for a while, and he gets snotted. But through this guy's term, what they intend to do is he will sanction the destruction of everybody that opposes it. That's what's terrified all these idiots that join secret societies. That's what terrifies them. Because they think they can escape death. Good luck with that, chaps. Good luck. You're still breathing the shit in, they're pumping out the geoengineered. Enough said. I don't care if you're 33 and 3,000 degree Mason, Jesuit, Illuminist. It doesn't matter. You're breathing it in. You're drinking the fucking water. It's in your detergents. It's going all over your soil, no matter where you are, because you're throwing it out of the sky. Put your fear away. They're not going to save you from anything. They're only interested in fucking you and saving themselves. Right, where are we? Hang on. What's going on here? Nothing. Distraction, disgusted, traction. Here we go. The stream keeps pausing. Yeah, I think it's. I think my computer's coming to the end of its life. To be honest, I've done a lot of things to it, but it's causing issues it shouldn't really cause anymore. But I think it's the SSD's just had its day. I've had it a long time. It's done me well as a computer. It's been an excellent machine. But just because she got cranky monkey, piss takers, cranky monkey. She's a ugly bitch. Is that one? And now it's a fraud, and somebody's took note. Misunderestimated economy. Well, interesting. King Arthur, King Offer. No, King Arthur were a Brittonic line of kings. E3. That's what they wanted back all the time. Who could very well have been of the Trojan lines, but see, I don't know to what degree the Trojans had sway in the north of England. They certainly had it across the south, Cornwall, what they call Wessex, Wales, as they call it today, Welles, as it was called, Mercia. But the rest, I know you see a lot of maps around these, but you get to the biggest chunk of England and Scotland was under the Brigantes, which was a Southern Ireland tribe. So many of the tribes that were on what we call England and Scotland, on Welles, before the Roman invasion, all the tribe names actually had source in most of them in Southern Ireland. So you can see that the island of Ireland was classed the Emerald Isle because that's where all the chief druids and the forces and powers that the druids commanded had root. Quittance. Good word for people to look up. Quittance. Have a look at that one for a bit of law. Effects need to kill. We need to stand up for our freedom. We are all the men. Where are all the men? Why don't we all keep using cash? Good point about the cash. Where have all the men gone? The women have annihilated them, thrown them out of the families, wrecked them. And in other cases, because the men couldn't keep the cock in the pants because they follow in black culture. It's that hipped it up. Chief king of the chimps, Eminem, innit? And there's that big lips, and his moll, Beyonce. Come on. Good day, mate, says Solvimus. Good day to you, my good man. A bit late, but I'll watch the late start yet. You might want to watch this. It's pretty good, I think. Imagine no one pays the mortgage. Boom. Well, then, I'm not going to get into that. Will this guy lift the veil of illusion? All is good. Solvimus, are you asking me that? The solution is very clear in relation to any kind of debt that's taken up through the equitable title, and that is the debt belongs to the king. Anybody comes at you with that name is actually trespass against the king. But we need to look a bit more because obviously he's up to summer with this, not creating any new notes with his ugly mug on. But if the monarchy system is handing over the baton, he takes on everything. And so he can sit there and say he's not if he wants, but that's the office of monarch. He's claiming to have it, he doesn't, he's a liar. But that's the position we're in. But it's the equitable title side that people really have to come to grips with, and also understanding that common law is completely different, don't mix them. And then you've got ecclesiastical. 3 different jurisdictions completely. Now, I know you're all aware of it, and I've spoken about him years ago in video, and I've written about it, but ultimately, even when I were reading it and writing it, it still didn't connect in the way that it's connected today. And a big part of that goes down to David Hicks, so well done that lad. Bon is good, yeah. Bon. Acquit. Right. So you mumbling on the old law, no problem. So I'm just going to flick through. Remember, we're not playing this as any religious nonsense. We're not going through any of that crap. I want you to omit that edit and see this as the forerunner for the agenda in the 20th century on the back of the reset that had taken place from 1850 to 1900. And these were the plans. And it works perfectly in sync with the Three World War strategy as telegraphed through Albert Pike. If you're going to listen to these people that say, oh, they're frauds and forgeries, it's on you if you don't go and look at what does a forgery mean. What does plagiarism mean? Because then you're going to listen, you're going to be in a secret society because you need to be told. You know, there's no need for secret societies if you're seeking knowledge. You've got to seek knowledge. You can't just fanny about reading other people's books. You have to read the books and read between the lines. You have to work out, who's this guy? Where's he coming from? What's he fixed in? Or is it an agenda? Because in a lot of cases, authors in the past, their agenda wasn't their agenda, it was their mentor's agenda. And they had a Schleer who were sucked into that belief part, and you could use him then as another outlet to support that. The guy I mentioned. Oh, the he that's cometh. Oh, I don't know. He's going to have all answers to all things, apparently. But of course, it's all things that they've set up and wrecked, and we've all followed because we were ignorant of the trespass. So it's not really about you, apart from realising that you've been a dick and you've trespassed. But ultimately, they block it. That's the problem. That's where they come unstuck, they're fraud. There is no contract, there's no agreement because they've defrauded you. But we're not going to turn this into a law gig apart from what we've looked at. Now, I can't remember what I had on here. Let me just... Oh, I'll tell you what I wanted to look at, chaps. Because this is rather startling. So that's just a little look at what it says. A vast military-style campaign to marshal the strength of the global private sector with trillions at his disposal. You get that? How then? What's this? Now then. This is sick. This is how the UN uses sophistry to present to you that it's doing something good when in reality it's undermining all sensibility and law relating to sex with children. Yeah, you know, Blavatsky were right when she said it's the unveiling of the hierarchy, but no, she didn't say that. She's when it comes above board. That's exactly. This is what they do. This is how they live. Now it's coming out and they're shoving it onto you. But again, if you're not on board with knowing that you've got to really look into the meanings of words. Now, can you see that, or is that a little bit too obscure? Can you see it? It's okay? Excellent. Oh, I know he's not saying. So is that okay? Could you see that? Oh no, because we have transitioned. Boom. Right. So this is... The 8th of March Principles for a Human Rights-Based Approach to Criminal Law, prescribing conduct associated with sex, reproduction, drug use, HIV, homelessness and poverty. Well, HIV doesn't exist, so that's a bag of shit. They want control over your reproduction, and you've shown you what that means. What does this mean? Okay? Conduct in association with sex. Book script, reproduction, that's a lie. Homelessness and poverty, that's in the hands of the satanic cults that we call evangelical Christianity. Alright? So there we go. We've covered all that stuff. We don't need to go into detail. Now, we're going down to the bottom because that's where the guts of what I'm trying to get across is this. This is the word wizardry. that they use. I can't remember how far up I went actually. Just because I managed to learn something today, how to highlight words, because I didn't know how to do it before. Now I might have missed some at the top, but I don't want to go. I want to give it at least 10 minutes on what I want to show with these protocols. It's a business plan. Forget the jury side of it and all that. Forget it. We know it's garbage. So these are just stuff they're putting together. It says further recommending that judges, including magistrates, as well as those members of the judiciary, charged with the task of reviewing the lawfulness of criminal law and other concerned stakeholders, such as legislators, prosecutors, defence and other lawyers, administrative regulators, policymakers, government officials, law enforcement officials, national human rights institutions. They really need us on the ECHR, you know, to keep this immigration going. That's why they've no intention of giving you Brexit. That's why they've got rid of Boris. And civil society actors and organisations at the national, regional and international levels disseminate, adopt and apply the principles to achieve the full realisation of human rights in the context of the enforcement of criminal law. Now that sounds good, but they're redrafting, rebranding, redefining what criminal law is. Obviously I'll put these up for you. You are well worth a read to see. If I set you off on the path of seeing under the radar. Criminal law may not on its face or as applied in substance or in form directly or indirectly discriminate on any, including multiple and intersecting grounds prohibited by international human rights law. Now what that's basically saying is, forget all law that exists in your nation, that you've built over centuries because you've decided as a culture you don't like that. That's a nice way of saying, screw that. Everything now can only be applied and classed as criminal law if it's in sync with what they're putting forward here, international human rights law. Do you get that? So that looks good, like they're doing, but that's saying screw everything that you know, because if it doesn't operate on this, and that's exactly what they're building here, it's not criminal law, right? Prohibited grounds of discrimination include, so this is where they're going to prevent you from claiming it's a criminal offence in this new human rights law that they want you to have, right? So it's prohibited to discriminate on age, sex, sex characteristics, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, race, colour, national or social origin, nationality, citizenship, ethnicity, disability, immigration status, property, birth or descent. Immigration status, if they come in and they've raped you, they can't be, well, you're an immigrant, out you go. Can you get it? Do you get that? Property, birth or descent, yeah, out with the window. Birth or descent. Included on the basis of caste and analogous systems of inherited status, language, religion or belief. Islam, wake up. Wake up. They're not going to accept anything you believe in once they've used you. Belief, political or other opinion, membership of a particular social group, marital or family status, pregnancy, childbirth, parenthood, health status, including HIV status or drug dependence, economic and social status, occupational status, place of residence, indigenous identity or status, minority or other status. Criminal liability may not be based on discriminatory grounds. So you can't put criminal liability on if no one may be held criminally liable for conduct that does not constitute a criminal offence under this new system if committed by another person. And where the criminalisation of such conduct constitutes prohibited discrimination under international or domestic law. Now this it's not clear when you read it, but you're heading now to, it's no longer, so if you have sex with a minor, just because that law said it's criminal, if it's affecting the rights of the one perpetrating it, it can't be, it doesn't constitute a criminal act? Is it subtle or what? Principle 11. Limitation on criminal liability of persons under 18 years of age. Right? No one under the age of 18 may be held criminally liable for any conduct that does not constitute a criminal offence if committed by a person who is 18 or older. You get it? Can you see? Read it between the lines here. And I'm going to put it up and you can have a little look at this. But this is the paedophilia coming in as law. Abortion. No one may be held criminally liable for their pregnancy loss, including a pregnancy loss resulting from an obstetric emergency, obstetric childbirth, or for an attempted underground abortion, blah, 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 blah. That's also going to cover liability for everything that's just going on in this last 3 years, people. You see? Because your law doesn't carry anymore. It's a new law. It's all new. Criminal law may not prescribe abortion. Abortion must be taken entirely out of the purview of the criminal law, including for having, aiding, assisting, or of providing an abortion, or abortion-related medication or services, or providing evidence-based abortion-related information. No other criminal offence such as murder, manslaughter, or any other form of unlawful homicide may prescribe or be applied to having, aiding, assisting, or with providing an abortion, or abortion-related medication or services, or providing evidence-based abortion-related information. Consensual sexual conduct. Note Principle 16, reverts down to 7, doesn't it? 1 and the 6. Who likes that number? The priesthood. Consensual sexual conduct, irrespective of the type of sexual activity. I had to bite his face off because it's how I do sex. Yeah? Irrespective of the type of sexual behaviour. Can you see how it it's a move to undermine. Yeah? Irrespective of the type of sexual activity, the sex, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression of the people involved or their marital status may not be criminalised in any circumstances. Consensual same sex as well as consensual different sex. Sexual relations or consensual sexual relations with or between trans, non-binary and other gender-diverse people or outside marriage, whether premarital or extramarital, may therefore never be criminalised. With respect to the enforcement of criminal law, any prescribed minimum age of consent to sex must be applied in a non-discriminatory manner. How the fuck do you do that? Unless there is no minimum age. Can you see? Enforcement may not be linked to the sex, gender of participants or age of consent to marriage. Muslims will like that. Moreover, sexual conduct involving persons below the domestically prescribed minimum age of consent to sex may be consensual in fact, if not in law. Let me do that again. Moreover, sexual conduct involving persons, remember it's persons, people, it's all equitable title, below the domestically prescribed minimum age of consent to sex may be consensual in fact, if not in law. Undermining all minimum age. In this context, the enforcement of criminal law should reflect the rights and capacity of persons under 18 of age to make decisions about engaging in consensual sexual conduct and their right to be heard in matters concerning them. Pursuant to their evolving capacities and progressive autonomy, persons under 18 years of age should participate in decisions affecting them, with due regard to their age, maturity and best interests, and with specific attention to non-discrimination guarantees. Why are they using the name 18? Here in Blight it's 16. So what's 18 got to do? It's a bit like you've got to be 16 to smoke, but 25, show ID for 25 to buy them. Such is the reasoning of these fruit bats. You get that? I don't think we need to go on. Now, just look, and then you can also see who's backing it. McGurn Abraham, Centre for Economic Social Rights. Richard Elliott, HIV Justice Network. So he's a fruit bat. There's no such thing as HIV. Only a mind virus. Monica Arango Ule, former Deputy Justice Constitutional Court, Columbia. Yeah, look at them all. Fanny Gomez. and Anna Grover. maybe she got the pistol case as a kid, and naturally it twisted her melon man. And now she can't think about sex properly. There's all your fruitcakes, your twisted child abusers. There they are. Let's have a look, see if there's any from UK. Any from UK? They all seem to be from third world countries if you look at it. God, yeah, that's a good way of getting it through, guys. President, Professor Robert K. Goldman, the Yank. Professor Carlos Ayala, Venezuela. Justice Miller, Serbia. Sir Nicholas, Executive with Sir Nicholas Bratzer, whoever that tosser is, United Kingdom. Dame Sylvia Cartwright, New Zealand. Miss Shawan Jabrin, Palestine. Lebanon, Japan, Italy, Switzerland, Uruguay, France. Justice Maritime Comte, Owen Martin Comte. Jordan, Republic, Korea, Kyrgyzstan, Venezuela, Philippines, Australia, Dr. Elizabeth Bayok. Colombia, UK, Sir Nicholas Bratzer. Mr. Reed Brody, United States. South Africa, Justice Azar Kachalia, New Zealand, Dame Sylvia Cartwright, another Dame. Justice Moses Chinega, Zimbabwe. USA, Professor Sarah Cleveland, France. Comte. Syria, Serbia, Brazil, Egypt, Canada. Miss Lalani Farha. Professor Robert Goldman, USA. Zambia, Uzbekistan, Palestine. Colombia, Switzerland. Switzerland, Justice Stefan Trexel. France, Justice Philippe Texier. Nepal, India, Switzerland, Israel. Mr. Michael Sfard. Chile, Argentina, Finland. Dr. Joanna Petman. Algeria, Japan, Australia. Justice John O'Mealy. Netherlands, Justice Egbert Major. Kenya, Russia. Miss Tamara Morshavakova. Botswana, South Africa, Malawi, Spain. Swaziland, Leon, Tunisia. Norway, Miss Asna Julsrud. There you go, P.O. Box, you can't serve it with nothing. Hey, there you go. Bad enough for that, I like it. We'll save that. Oh, it saves it when you do that. How amazing, I've learned a new trick today. Right, folks. We're not going to go through this mad crazy, we're just going to hit on a few different paragraphs. Because what I wanted to find, I can't find. But you tell me, if this is nonsense and nonsense, does this as a business plan? Can you see this business plan having been acted since at least 1850? Okay, because this is tied into 1860 actually, the documents themselves, but they weren't found until, I think, 1901. The courier that had them in his possession was struck by lightning. Now then. About that. I have first-hand experience of being struck by lightning from the crazy god with the lightning bolts. So, yeah, I would take it seriously that that same geezer wanted us to see these back in the day. Protocols, Lewis said, blah, 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 blah. We're not going to go through this. They were obviously published in Russian in 1905 by Sergei Nilis. In 1906, copies were placed in the British Museum. Jewish authorities naturally deny the authenticity of these documents, and I don't blame them because this is the fruitcake priesthood. So let's not go into opinions, let's get into the guts of it. No, we don't want to do that because it's right. Protocol 1. A protocol of 1860, the manifesto. The day is not distant when all the riches and treasures of the earth will become property of the children of Israel. We're not going to do that because I don't want to make it into that. I've told you we're not looking at that in that side of it, but it does mention it a lot. Can't avoid it. But this is a business plan. Protocol 2. We must see that wars are brought on economic grounds, putting the nations at the mercy of our international agentur, when our international rights of gold will wipe out all national rights. Our employees chosen from the Goyim cattle must be of a type that submit to blind and servile obedience to our specialists and advisors who have been trained from childhood to rule the affairs of the world. These are not empty words. Think of the successes we arranged for Darwinism, Marxism, Nietzscheism. To us, it's plain that the destructive, disintegrating force these directives have upon the minds of the Goyim cattle, that great force of today, is the press. It's in our hands. And through it we have gained the gold, gathered out the oceans of blood and tears. We have had to sacrifice a few of our people, but not one of us in the sight of God is worth 1,000 goyim cattle, such an abominable vomiting. Our goal, Protocol 3, our goal is only a few steps off. Soon all the states of Europe will be locked in the coils of the snake. Some of our people will have breathed terror into the palaces and made gulfs between the sovereign and the masses of the people. Well, we've just looked at the king. There is a massive void between him and the people. Is there not? All people chained to every soil by abject poverty. Anarchists, yeah, you're killing out the goyim cattle, blah blah blah. Chronic shortness of food and physical weakness. Crown the same man shall sweep away everything. Here we go. By wanton envy and hatred we shall move the masses to wipe out with their own hands all those who hinder us. When the hour strikes for our sovereign Lord of all the world to be crowned, these same hands shall sweep away everything that hinders. I'll tell you, it's only a short gig with this guy, but he's the one through which they'll get everybody excited enough to make judgment and kill everybody that's going against it. So all you zealots of all religions are going to be doing that. That's why militia mind, people. Militia mind. But first point is, do not let them take you as a white male to war. There will be a war, but it's not going to be over there. It'll be here. You need to keep that in mind. If you go to war for their war, you're handing over your offspring and the family to that which has been promised to these subcultures. Protocol 18, we have compelled the rules to acknowledge their weakness in advertising overt measures of secret defence, and thereby we shall bring a promise of authority to destruction. You are aware that the gold standard has been the ruin of the states which adopted it. We have taken advantage of the goyim cattle governments to get our monies twice, thrice and more times ever over by lending money that we not at all needed. In our hands is the greatest power of a day, gold. In 2 days we can procure from our storehouse any quantity we may please. We shall improve morals, prevent unemployment and prohibit drunkenness. The king has no place for an angelic spirit. Do you hear that? A king, meaning their king, has no place for an angelic spirit. There's no God in this, people. This is Mammon. This is Uberman. He needs only force and power, for he will be obliged to kill off existing societies. Alright? Hail the root of King David. Well, if you've ever studied King David, the guy with the biggest psychopath going, he made Adolf Hitler and Vlad the Impaler look tame. Only the king and the 3 sponsors. Right? Only the king, this is their king, and the 3 sponsors will know what is coming. The king will be the whole show, and the cat's meow rolled into one. He must have a big brain reservoir, bigger stomach, and a still bigger tool of the trade. Shoot him and knock his block off, or to be his bywords. The king of the Jews must not be at the mercy of his passions. He must stay with his own blondes. Our supreme lord must be of an exemplary irreproachability. Woohoo! Goyim cattle are like flock of sheep, and we are the wolves. Secret masonry is not known to, and its aims are not as much as suspected by the Goyim cattle attracted by us into the show army of Masonic lodges in order to throw dust in the eyes of their fellows. We shall, of course, absolutely control the press. Yeah, the need for their daily straw and sawdust will keep the Goyim cattle from mooing or perhaps bellowing in protest. We must sweep away all religions but our own, the religion of Moses given to us, the chosen people. Yep, there's only one, Moses, the Moses gang. The undermining of state structures instigated by us will soon weary the Goyim cattle, and they will prefer to suffer anything under us rather than to run the risk of enduring all the miseries they have gone through. 15. We shall slay without mercy all of our opponents. We shall kill all members of all secret societies and even all the Goyim cattle masons who have served us blindly in our nefarious schemes and plots. Will be shot or exiled. What have they just done to you in the last 3 years? Shot you, haven't they? Right? They've shot you. Yeah, you know, it's that map. You hear a word and a picture comes up. No, shot. What have you all just done? Resolution of our government will be final without appeal. That's the Sanhedrin. We execute Masons in such wise that none save the Brotherhood can ever have a suspicion of it. Not even the victims themselves. They all die when required as from a normal kind of illness. The crown of world sovereignty will soon be set upon the sacred head of the King of Israel. We have long past taken care to discredit the priesthood and to ruin their mission on earth, so that now only years divide us from the moment of the complete wrecking of that Christian religion. When the time comes finally to destroy the papal court, the finger of an invisible hand will point the nations towards this court. When our kingdom will be distinguished by a despotism of such magnificent proportions as to be at any moment and in every place a position to wipe out any goyim cattle who oppose by word or deed. During the past 20 centuries, we have contrived to set all goyim cattle against each other, so that nations cannot come to a considerable private agreement without our secretly having a hand in it. There is no evading our power. We shall establish huge monopolies upon which the richest goyim cattle must depend. Say they've got you. In our government, besides ourselves, there must be only the massive enslaved proletariat. A few millionaires devoted entirely to us, police and soldiers. To do this, we must foment discords and hostilities. Our intrigues must tangle up all threads, and we must use all deceit, treachery and falseness possible. Our greatest weapon, which is already in our hands, is the press. Goyim cattle sign papers without reading them, and yes, you do! Only we, the Jews, are qualified to rule the world. Our weapons are limitless, ambitious, burning greed, merciless vengeance, hatreds and malice. Yep. It's just saying that all these were received by different people, yeah. And on it goes, people. And on it goes through the whole show. Let's just pick out another. Every republic passes through several stages. The first of those is comprised in the early days of mad raging by the blind mob, tossed hither and thither, right and left. The second is demagogy, from which is born anarchy, and that leads inevitably to despotism. Not any longer legal and overt and therefore responsible despotism. In the times when the peoples looked upon the kings in their thrones as the pure manifestation of the will of God, they submitted without murmur and to the despotic power of kings. But from the day when we insinuated into their minds the conception of their own rights, they began to regard the occupants of the thrones as mere ordinary mortals. The holy unaction of the Lord's anointed has fallen from the heads of kings in the eyes of the people. And when we also robbed them of their faith in God, the might and power was flung upon the streets into the place of public proprietorship and was seized by us. In order to put public opinion in our hands, we must bring into the state of bewilderment by giving expression from all sides so many contradictory opinions, and for such length of time as we suffice to make the goyim lose their heads in this labyrinth, and come to see that the best thing is to have no opinion of any kind in matters political. Oh, on and on and on it goes. I mean, I read these many times years ago, and as I said, I put a thesis together with my own take. So I'm remembering it as I go through it. So it's not new to me, but it's probably new to a lot of people because, of course, they've been very, very clever at presenting it as not real. It is real, it's plagiarised, and it's forgery, and that was ruled in the court in 1921. So don't take my word for it, folks. Right, well, we are 22:45, so I'm absolutely roasting here. I can't breathe. You guys have been talking low, that's excellent. I don't mind, that's excellent indeed, because there's enough information in here, I think. If people are interested in this kind of stuff, I'll put all the documents underneath as usual. And away we go. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, with that I have to say thanks for joining me on this hot day. You have a splendid week in this weather as it continues. And I will say, till the next time.